Peace world, what is good? I think this is my first video of 2022, man. Belated New Year. um, Obviously, beginning of the year doesn't usually, it is usually not flooded with fights, even though we see the fights that are either coming at the end of the month, leading into next month. And one of them I'm going to talk about right now. I mentioned in a previous video is the concerns return. After a 2.5-year layoff, Keith Thurman returns on Fox pay-per-view against Mario Barrios, who's coming off the knockout loss against Gervonta Davis at 140 pounds. And, he's thrusted into this fight against, again, another big name in the sport, in that of Keith Thurman. At one point, prior to his loss to Manny Pacquiao, which was his last fight, July of 2019, Keith Thurman, whether you like the guy or not, was the longest standing champion at welterweight post the Pacquiao Mayweather era, and he's even leading into the Josecito Lopez fight, which I want to touch on real, as it concerns this fight. It's obviously widely known that Keith Thurman has been riddled with injuries for a good amount of time. I mean, he had that car accident, which wasn't obviously nothing to compare to what Errol Spence went through. But he had a car accident, and he's had injuries in the past 3-4 years, which has sidelined him a good amount of time. It's not as if he's had these 2-year layoffs back to back. This is his longest layoff, but I think there was a point where he had a year layoff not too long ago. I'm trying to draw the timeline, but you guys know. So and at this juncture, he's now returning again after a 2.5-year absence against a kid like Mario Barrios, who got the experience under the big lights against, I don't want to call Tank a superstar per se yet, when we term how we recognize a boxing superstar, but one of the rising stars that we feel at some point will be a big star in the sport. And again, when I talk about big stars, not to go off or anything, but when I talk about major crossover appeal, okay? Even if people don't watch boxing or not, they know Canelo Alvarez. Even if they refer to him as the redheaded Mexican dude. I don't think Tank is there yet. But to the point of Mario Barrios, he gained experience in that fight. And look, truth be told, he was beating Gervonta Davis for a good portion of that fight until, he started getting hit. So again, Keith Thurman, and I've seen interviews in recent where he's been very vocal about wanting to make this comeback, and he wants to get in there with Errol Spence, he wants to get in there with Terrence Crawford, and which, because they bring money, and world titles. But you got to get past that. You got to get past this first step. And we are coming off a year of 2021 where we have seen a lot of upsets. We saw Mikey Garcia lose to somebody that a lot of y'all didn't even know. But why was that? You question, even not to compare Mikey Garcia or Keith Thurman, but these are two guys that have made very good money. They've made very good money. They're former world champions. They've done well outside the ring. So again, man, when you get to that stage, the trick, and this is why guys like Manny, Pacquiao, Floyd, even Bernard Hopkins, some of these guys, you wonder, how did they parlay so late into their careers and still finding some kind of motivation to perform at a high level against other high-level fighters. And I guess in this instance with Keith Thurman, and then, I guess I'll maybe to compare Mikey Garcia, you question whether or not that willpower is really there to go full throttle, and really set a statement. And you got a kid like Mario Barrios, who I have said this from before, where he might be stronger at welterweight, being he was admittedly cutting a lot of weight to make 140. We've seen in the past where fighters, when they've done that, you're like, oh, you should have been at this weight the entire time. This is why this fight is interesting, because on paper, I favor Keith Thurman. Why? He's he's more experienced. Again, he's fought better guys. And again, we know he could crack at welterweight. We don't know about Mario Barrios. But this fight to me isn't so cut and dry. Because the thing I keep looking at with Thurman is the things I just explained. He's been riddled with injuries. He's almost like, I don't want to say he's overlooking Barrios, but I'm hearing a lot of Spence and Crawford talk. And you start to wonder whether or not, like, he's taking this fight as if Mario Barrios is going to be the best Mario Barrios we're going to see. That's the hope fighters go into every fight, right? But for Keith Thurman, man, I feel people aren't talking about how much he has riding on this particular fight, because let me tell you, even in a win, okay, if he looks shaky, what's to gain from what do Errol Spence and Terrence Crawford really have to gain? I think Thurman has to have it's hard to say a monster performance, but I think he has to have a performance that people are going to start to question, wow, Thurman is back. He can't have the performance like how he did against Josecito Lopez, who he almost got knocked out by, another 140-pounder. So, again, all things considered, Thurman should win this fight. But we got to see the fights. So, I'm very interested to see this. I don't like that it's on pay-per-view. But, hey. And then Leo Santa Cruz, I think, is fighting Michael Carvajal's nephew. I forgot the kid's first name. Carvajal is my favorite fighter coming up, man. Favorite little guy coming up in the early 90s. So, yeah, I'll be watching. But let me know what you think, man. Does Keith Thurman blast through Mario Barrios, or is this a competitive fight? It's tricky, man. I'm just being 100. Like, I favor Thurman, but I'm not going in, or let me say, I'm going into this fight with the mindset that he's been out 2.5 years, again, riddled with injuries. Have those injuries been taken care of? And what is the ring rust going to look like? Again, not like 8-9 months, a year. He's been out almost 2.5 years, guys. Things to consider, okay? Let me know what you think of the fight. Keith Thurman, Mario Barrios, next month on Fox Pay-Per-View. So I am out. Follow us at Guard Your Girl Boxing on Instagram. Follow me at Roberto_Flat. Peace.